You think you're making your own decisions. You believe you're in control of your relationship, your choices, your daily life. You wake up thinking you're the captain of your own ship, steering toward whatever destination you choose. But what if I told you that invisible threads have been attached to your arms, your thoughts, your very identity, and someone else has been pulling those strings so skillfully that you never even noticed? There's a form of influence so subtle, so sophisticated, that it operates completely below the radar of conscious awareness. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic confrontations or obvious manipulation tactics. Instead, it works like a master craftsman, shaping reality one tiny adjustment at a time until the person being controlled believes every decision was their own idea. This isn't about the obvious power plays you might expect. This isn't about screaming matches or ultimatums or threats. Those are amateur hour compared to what we're discussing today. What I'm revealing operates in the shadows of everyday interactions, disguised as care, concern, and collaboration. Think about the most skilled puppet master you've ever seen. Their hands move so smoothly, so naturally, that you forget you're watching strings being pulled. The puppet appears to dance, to speak, to live entirely on its own. That's exactly how this psychological phenomenon works in relationships and social dynamics. Most people walk through life completely unaware that their thoughts, preferences, and decisions are being shaped by invisible forces. They believe their sudden change of opinion came from careful consideration. They think their new priorities emerged from personal growth. They assume their shifting boundaries reflect their own evolving values. But here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Every interaction becomes a data collection opportunity. Every conversation becomes a mapping session where psychological terrain gets charted and catalogued. Every emotional response becomes intelligence that gets filed away for future use. This information doesn't get used dramatically or obviously. It gets weaponized through 1,000 tiny adjustments to reality. The person wielding this influence doesn't need to raise their voice or make demands. They understand something far more powerful than force. They understand that the human mind craves consistency, abhors contradiction, and will work overtime to maintain whatever narrative feels most comfortable. So instead of fighting against natural psychological tendencies, they work with them. They plant seeds of ideas and let the target's own mind do the cultivation. They create emotional states and let the target draw their own conclusions. They establish patterns and let the target fill in the blanks. What makes this so devastating is that traditional defenses don't work. You can't fight back against something you can't see. You can't resist manipulation you don't recognize. You can't protect yourself from influence that feels like your own thoughts. The target becomes an active participant in their own control, convinced they're making autonomous choices while actually following a script they never realized was written for them. This psychological architecture gets constructed so carefully, so patiently, that by the time someone realizes what's happening, the entire foundation of their decision-making process has been quietly replaced. The process begins with something that appears completely innocent, a casual observation about your behavior, a gentle suggestion about what might make you happier, a concerned comment about how others perceive you. These seemingly random remarks aren't random at all. They're carefully calculated probes designed to test your psychological defenses and map your emotional vulnerabilities. Watch what happens when someone masters this technique. They'll make an observation that sounds helpful but contains a subtle criticism. Something like noting how much more relaxed you seem when you're not around certain friends, or mentioning how much better you look when you dress a particular way. The comment feels supportive on the surface, but underneath it's planting a seed of doubt about your own judgment. Your mind immediately starts working to process this information. Did you really seem tense around those friends? Maybe they're right about the way you dress. Before you know it, you're reconsidering choices you were perfectly happy with moments before. But here's the crucial part. You believe this reconsideration came from your own reflection, not from external influence. This is just the opening move in a much larger game. Once they've established that their observations carry weight with you, the suggestions become more frequent and more specific. They start offering solutions to problems you didn't know you had. They begin highlighting patterns you never noticed. They point out contradictions in your behavior that suddenly seem glaringly obvious. The most terrifying part isn't that this manipulation exists. It's that once you recognize these patterns, you'll start seeing them everywhere. In conversations, in relationships, in the way decisions get made around you. The puppet strings become visible, and you realize how many people around you are dancing to music they never chose. Now that you understand the mechanism, you can't unknow it. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you remain a puppet, or will you cut your own strings?